Hi guys, tonight, the air is warm, and the desert has finally begun to release the heat it gathered beneath the bright Egyptian sun. The wind moves slowly across open fields, carrying the soft smell of dry earth, fresh river water, and distant cooking fires that have almost faded into glowing embers. Above, countless stars rest in a sky so clear that it seems endless, stretching quietly over villages, farms, temples, and long roads that disappear into darkness. The Nile flows without hurry. Its gentle current has carried people through countless generations, always moving, always returning with the seasons, never asking for praise. In the quiet hours before dawn, when most voices have disappeared and only the sounds of insects and distant birds remain, the river becomes the heartbeat of the land. This is a place where nearly every life follows the rhythm of water, sunlight, and time. There are no clocks. There are no bells marking every passing hour. Instead, people wake with the first pale light that touches the eastern horizon, and they rest when darkness settles over the fields once again. Life moves slowly here. Not because the work is easy, but because every day follows patterns that have been repeated for centuries. One sunrise leads naturally into another. One harvest quietly becomes the next. Children grow into adults, adults become elders, and new families begin while the river continues its endless journey toward the sea. As the first hint of morning begins to soften the darkness, a small village rests beside one of the many branches of the Nile. The homes are simple. Their walls are built from mud bricks shaped by careful hands long ago. The roofs are flat and covered with reeds, branches, and packed earth. During the hottest hours of the day, these homes hold onto a little coolness. At night, they offer shelter from the desert wind that sometimes whispers across the open land. Inside one small house, a family is still asleep. The room is quiet. Simple woven mats cover the floor. A few clay jars stand against the wall. A basket filled with grain waits patiently for another day of bread making. A small oil lamp has almost burned out, leaving only the faint smell of warm clay and smoke behind. The father lies sleeping after another long day in the fields. His hands tell the story of many seasons. The skin across his palms is rough from lifting baskets, pulling weeds, carrying water, and guiding wooden tools through heavy soil. Tiny scars have gathered over many years. Each one remembers a forgotten afternoon beneath the Egyptian sun. His work is ordinary. Almost nobody outside his village will ever know his name. Yet without people like him, Egypt itself could not exist. The great temples, the busy cities, the markets filled with grain, even the homes of powerful officials all depend upon the quiet work performed by thousands of ordinary people before the sun has fully risen. Nearby, his wife begins to stir. She wakes before nearly everyone else. There is much to prepare before daylight fills the village. She quietly stands, careful not to wake the youngest child sleeping beside her. Her feet touch the cool packed earth floor. She stretches gently before reaching for a small clay bowl resting near the doorway. Outside, the air feels wonderfully cool compared with the heat that will come later. She walks toward a nearby storage jar where yesterday's water has remained surprisingly fresh throughout the night. She washes her face. The cold water feels refreshing. For only a few peaceful moments, the entire village belongs to silence. No merchants are calling. No children are laughing. No animals are moving quickly. Only the quiet breathing of sleeping families and the endless sound of the Nile drifting nearby. Soon another door opens. Then another. The village slowly begins to awaken like flowers opening beneath the morning light. Smoke rises gently into the sky as the first cooking fires are carefully lit. Dry reeds crackle softly beneath small clay ovens. The familiar smell of baking bread slowly fills the cool morning air. It is one of the oldest smells in Egypt. Every family knows it. Every morning begins with it. Grain has already been ground into flour using heavy stone tools that require patient effort. Women often spend long hours kneeling beside grinding stones, pushing one stone across another until coarse flour slowly gathers beneath their hands. It is tiring work. The shoulders grow sore. The knees ache. Tiny grains of flour settle into hair and clothing. Yet the work must be done almost every day. Without bread, there is little to eat. As the dough begins to bake, children slowly wake inside nearby homes. Some are still sleeping. Others rise quickly, already knowing today's chores. Even young children have responsibilities. They help gather reeds. They carry small baskets. They watch younger brothers and sisters. Some help collect animal dung, which dries beneath the sun and later becomes fuel for cooking fires. Nothing useful is wasted. Everything has its purpose. The father finally wakes as sunlight begins touching the highest branches of nearby date palms. He sits quietly for a moment. The coolness of dawn is already beginning to disappear. Soon the heat will arrive. He knows this without looking outside. He has lived through enough summers to understand exactly how the day will unfold. He eats a simple meal with his family. Fresh bread. A few onions. Perhaps some beans. Sometimes there are dates. Sometimes a little fish if yesterday's catch was generous. The meal is modest. It is enough. Nobody lingers very long. Work is waiting. Outside, the dusty path through the village slowly fills with neighbors greeting one another in quiet voices. They know each other's families. They know whose crops are growing well. They know who has been ill. They know who recently welcomed a new child into the world. Life here is deeply shared. No one truly lives alone. The farmer begins walking toward his fields. His sandals press gently into the dusty road. The leather straps are worn smooth after years of walking the same familiar path. Around him, the land slowly brightens. Birds circle above the river. Tall reeds sway gently beside narrow irrigation channels. The smell of damp soil rises into the morning air where water reached the fields during the night. This water is everything. Without it, the earth would quickly become dry and lifeless. With it, grain grows tall. Vegetables appear. Animals eat. Families survive. Many workers are already gathered near the fields. Some carry wooden hoes across their shoulders. Others balance baskets upon their heads. A few lead donkeys carrying supplies for the day's labor. Nobody rushes. There is no need. The work itself is long enough. The farmer kneels beside young plants. His hands gently press loose soil around their roots. He studies each row carefully. Some plants need more water. Others are growing well. He notices tiny insects chewing leaves. He brushes them away one by one. The morning remains pleasant for a little while. The breeze continues drifting from the Nile. Workers speak quietly as they labor. Conversations are simple. They discuss the weather, the river, their children, a neighbor's sick goat. Someone mentions that a relative may soon marry. Another wonders whether this year's harvest will be generous. No one speaks loudly. The peaceful rhythm of work fills the silence between their words. As the sun climbs higher, shadows become shorter. The cool morning slowly disappears. Heat settles gently across the fields. Sweat forms along brows and necks. Clothing begins to cling against tired skin. The work continues. A farmer cannot simply stop because the day has grown warmer. The crops still need attention. The earth still waits. Nearby, another group of workers repairs an irrigation channel. The narrow banks have begun to crumble after many seasons of flowing water. Mud is gathered. Stone is placed carefully. Reeds are pressed into weak places. The work is slow and patient. Every repair helps guide precious river water exactly where it must go. A mistake here could leave one field dry while another floods. Experience matters. Older workers teach younger hands through quiet example rather than long explanation. They have learned these lessons from parents and grandparents before them. Many things in Egypt are taught simply by watching. Far from the fields, another day begins inside a busy workshop. Here, builders prepare materials for future construction. The air smells different. Fresh cut wood mixes with dust from carved stone. Copper tools strike rhythmically against harder surfaces. The sounds echo softly between mud brick walls. A young apprentice watches an older craftsman shape a wooden beam. The older man's hands move with calm confidence. He measures by sight as much as by simple cords and tools. Each cut is careful. Nothing is hurried. Wood is valuable. Mistakes are costly. The apprentice studies every movement. One day these same hands will belong to him. Elsewhere, potters shape wet clay upon simple wheels. Their fingers glide smoothly across spinning vessels. A bowl slowly rises. Then a jar. Then another. Each piece will carry water, grain, oil, or wine into countless homes. Few people will ever notice the potter's skill. Yet everyone depends upon it. Near the center of a larger town, scribes begin another quiet morning. Unlike farmers, their hands remain smooth. Instead of lifting baskets, they lift brushes. Instead of turning soil, they cover fresh sheets of papyrus with careful signs. The room is peaceful. Light enters through narrow openings in the walls. Dust floats gently through warm beams of sunlight. A young student copies symbols again and again. His teacher watches patiently. Every line must be neat. Every mark must be correct. Mistakes require starting over. Learning to become a scribe takes years of steady practice. It is not easy. It simply asks different things from the body. Where farmers grow tired muscles, scribes grow tired eyes. Where builders lift stone, scribes sit quietly for long hours. Every kind of work leaves its own mark upon those who perform it. As morning stretches toward midday, the entire land seems wrapped in growing warmth. The desert beyond the green fields shimmers beneath bright sunlight. The stones of temple walls begin storing heat that they will slowly release again after sunset. Dogs search for patches of shade. Birds rest beneath trees. Even the breeze grows quieter. The farmer pauses only long enough to drink. Water tastes wonderfully cool from a clay jar shaded beneath woven reeds. He wipes sweat from his forehead before returning once more to the soil. There is always another task waiting. Always another row to inspect. Always another small repair to complete. This is not unusual. This is simply life. The rhythm has remained almost unchanged across many generations. And as the sun continues its slow journey across the endless Egyptian sky, thousands upon thousands of ordinary workers quietly carry the weight of a civilization, one peaceful day at a time. By the time the sun stands high above the Nile, the morning coolness has become only a memory. The light is bright now, falling across the fields without interruption. Every mud brick wall, every palm tree, every quiet path through the village seems wrapped in warm gold. The shadows have grown short, gathering close beneath people and animals alike. The work continues. It almost always does. There are moments when hands pause to wipe away sweat or to stretch tired backs, but the rhythm of the day is rarely broken for long. The fields cannot wait for cooler weather. The river follows its own schedule, and those who depend upon it must follow as well. A farmer bends once more toward the earth. The soil feels different now than it did before sunrise. The surface has begun to dry beneath the heat, though beneath it there is still moisture left behind by careful irrigation. He pushes a wooden hoe through the loose ground with slow, practiced movements. The tool is simple. Its handle has become smooth after years of use. It fits naturally into his hands, as though it has learned the shape of his fingers. It is repaired many times rather than replaced. Small cracks are bound with strips of leather. The wood grows darker where sweat has soaked into it season after season. Nothing here is expected to remain perfect. Things are expected to last. Nearby, another worker kneels beside a small canal. He watches the water with careful attention. The current is gentle, but even gentle water has great importance. A slight change in the flow may leave one family with healthy crops while another struggles through the coming months. Small barriers made from mud and reeds are opened and closed by hand, guiding the precious river water toward different fields throughout the day. It is quiet work. Much of it happens without conversation. The sound of moving water is enough. Dragonflies drift above the surface. Tiny fish flash beneath the sunlight. The river seems peaceful, but everyone understands its power. It gives life to the land. It asks for patience in return. Farther along the riverbank, fishermen prepare their nets. Some returned before dawn with the first catch of the morning. Others have waited until now, hoping the changing light will bring different fish closer to the shallows. Their boats are narrow and light. They slide gently across the calm water with little sound. Wooden oars dip quietly beneath the surface before rising again, leaving only small circles that slowly disappear. One fisherman has worked these waters since he was a child. His father taught him where the deeper channels curve beneath the surface. His grandfather had learned the same places many years before that. The river changes. Yet somehow it also remains familiar. He studies the movement of birds overhead. He notices small ripples where fish briefly disturb the surface. These are tiny signs. Easy to miss. But experience has taught him to read the Nile as others might read words written upon papyrus. He casts his net. It opens gracefully in the air before settling into the water. Now he waits. There is no hurry. Fishing has always required patience. Back in the village, the smell of bread has slowly given way to other scents. Stew simmers inside clay pots. Garlic, onions, lentils, and herbs fill the warm air. Women prepare the day's main meal while keeping one eye on children playing nearby. A toddler sits beneath the shade of a date palm. His small hands explore handfuls of cool sand. His older sister watches him while weaving thin strands of plant fiber together. She is still young. Yet she has already begun learning skills that will remain useful throughout her life. Nobody announces these lessons. They happen naturally. A child watches. Then imitates. Little by little, work becomes familiar. Inside another home, an elderly woman slowly grinds grain upon a flat stone. Her movements are steady. She no longer works as quickly as she once did, but speed is no longer expected of her. Her value comes from memory. She remembers seasons of abundant harvest. She remembers years when the river rose higher than anyone expected. She remembers names that younger people have never heard. As her hands continue their slow motion across the grinding stone, grandchildren sit nearby listening to stories told in a quiet voice. The stories do not speak only of rulers or temples. Many are about ordinary people. About careful neighbors. About long walks beside the Nile. About kindness shown during difficult years. Memory itself becomes another form of work. It is gently carried from one generation to the next. The afternoon grows warmer. Even the animals begin searching for deeper shade. Oxen rest beneath simple shelters built from reeds. Goats gather beside mud walls where sunlight cannot quite reach. Cats sleep with complete confidence, stretching lazily upon warm stone floors. The village seems slower now. Not because people have become lazy. Because the heat asks every living thing to move carefully. In one corner of the settlement, a group of builders works upon a new storage building. Mud bricks are stacked nearby in neat rows. Each brick was formed from Nile mud mixed with straw, shaped by hand, and left beneath the sun until it hardened. A young laborer lifts one carefully. Its weight presses firmly against his arms. He carries it across the work site, places it into position, and reaches for another. Again. And again. And again. No single brick is especially remarkable. But thousands together create homes that will shelter families for many years. A master builder studies the growing wall. He runs his hand gently along the fresh surface. The bricks must sit evenly. Small adjustments now prevent larger problems later. His work requires both strength and patience. He speaks softly to the younger workers. There is little need for shouting. Everyone already understands today's tasks. Only small corrections are necessary. A little farther away, stone workers shape blocks that may someday become part of a temple or official building. Their work is slower still. Copper chisels strike carefully against limestone. Tap. Pause. Tap. Pause. The sound repeats with almost musical rhythm. Fine white dust settles over clothing and hair. By evening, every worker will carry a pale layer of stone powder across tired shoulders. One man pauses for a moment. He stretches his stiff fingers before returning to the same careful movement. Stone does not reward impatience. It asks only for steady hands. Across the larger towns of Egypt, merchants welcome travelers arriving beneath the afternoon sun. Donkeys carry baskets filled with onions, grain, woven cloth, dried fish, pottery, and jars of oil. The marketplace is busy but never frantic. People greet familiar faces. Neighbors exchange quiet news. A basket of figs changes hands. A small bundle of flax is carefully examined before being purchased. Coins are not yet part of everyday trade. Instead, value often moves through grain, goods, labor, and careful agreement. Everyone understands these exchanges. They are as familiar as sunrise. Among the merchants walks a young scribe carrying a rolled sheet of papyrus. His task today is simple. He records deliveries of grain collected for storage. Each measurement is written carefully. Every number matters. If mistakes are made, families may receive less than they need during difficult seasons. The responsibility rests quietly upon his shoulders. He writes with calm concentration. The brush glides gently across the papyrus. Nearby, children chase one another between shaded walls before being called back to help their families. Laughter rises briefly into the warm afternoon air. It fades just as gently. Even play is woven between moments of work. No day belongs entirely to labor. Nor does it belong entirely to rest. Life moves somewhere between the two. As the sun slowly begins its journey downward, a softer breeze finally returns from the river. The change is small, almost impossible to notice at first. But workers feel it immediately. The moving air cools damp skin. Breathing becomes easier. The afternoon seems just a little more forgiving. Farmers continue tending their crops. Some inspect irrigation channels one final time before evening. Others gather bundles of reeds for repairing fences or roofs. A pair of brothers led donkeys carrying harvested vegetables toward the village. The animals walk patiently, already knowing the familiar road. Dust rises beneath steady hooves before settling quietly once more. Not every day brings abundance. Some years the harvest is generous. Other years it is smaller. The people understand this better than anyone. Their lives have taught them not to expect perfection from nature. Instead, they prepare. They store grain. They repair tools before they break completely. They share labor with neighbors when someone falls ill. Work is rarely performed alone. It is carried together. Near the river, several women kneel beside the water washing linen garments. The cloth is beaten gently against smooth stones before being rinsed again and again. The river carries away dust gathered during long days beneath the Egyptian sun. Children splash quietly nearby in the shallows. An older sister watches carefully while filling clay jars with fresh water. Each jar is surprisingly heavy once full. She balances one upon her shoulder with practiced ease. Soon she will carry it home along the familiar path worn smooth by countless footsteps. As evening approaches, cooking fires begin appearing once again across the village. Thin ribbons of smoke rise peacefully into the cooling sky. The smell of baking bread returns. This time it mingles with roasted fish, beans, herbs, and fresh vegetables gathered earlier in the day. Families slowly make their way home. The farmer who left before sunrise now walks the same dusty road in reverse. His shoulders ache. His legs feel heavy. Fine dust covers his sandals. His clothing carries the smell of warm earth and river water. He is tired. Not from one difficult day alone, but from years of steady labor repeated with quiet determination. Still, there is comfort in returning home. Children run to greet him. His youngest reaches for his hand. His wife smiles softly as she places fresh bread upon a woven mat. The family gathers together before eating. There is no great ceremony. Only gratitude for another ordinary day that has passed safely. As darkness slowly begins to settle across the Nile, the sounds of work gradually fade. The steady tapping of stone tools becomes distant. Voices in the marketplace grow fewer. Boats return to shore. Animals settle into their places for the night. One by one, small oil lamps are lit inside mud-brick homes. Their gentle flames cast warm light across simple walls. Outside, the desert begins cooling once more. The stars quietly return above the great river, just as they have for countless generations. And beneath that endless sky, thousands of ordinary workers finish another day, knowing that before long the first pale light of morning will arrive again, calling them gently back to the familiar rhythm of life along the Nile. The night settles gently across the land, as though the whole of Egypt has taken a slow and peaceful breath. The day's heat begins to drift away from the fields, though the stones still hold warmth gathered beneath the afternoon sun. Mud brick walls release their heat little by little, and the air becomes easier to breathe. A quiet breeze moves across the Nile, brushing the tops of tall reeds before wandering through narrow village paths. The river never truly sleeps. Even in darkness, its gentle current continues its endless journey. Small ripples catch the pale light of the moon. Occasionally, a fish breaks the surface before disappearing again beneath the calm water. Somewhere in the distance, a water bird calls into the night, its voice soft enough that it soon becomes part of the silence once more. Inside the village, families have finished their evening meal. Clay bowls have been washed. The last pieces of bread have been wrapped in linen for tomorrow morning. Cooking fires have been covered with ash so that a little warmth remains until dawn. One by one, the homes become quiet. Children grow sleepy first. After a day spent helping their families, carrying small baskets, gathering reeds, chasing one another between houses, and watching the work of older hands, they settle onto woven mats with little effort. Before long, their breathing becomes slow and steady. Parents remain awake a little longer. The father sits just outside his doorway, where the evening air is cooler. He stretches his tired legs. Every muscle reminds him of the hours spent beneath the sun. His shoulders feel heavy. His hands are sore. Tiny grains of dust remain caught beneath his fingernails despite washing them in the river. These feelings are familiar. They arrive almost every evening. They have become as ordinary as sunrise itself. Nearby, his wife repairs a woven basket whose edge has begun to loosen. Her fingers move calmly through the reeds, tightening each strand without hurry. A basket like this may carry vegetables from the fields, grain from storage, or fresh bread from the oven. Though simple, it is worth repairing carefully. Nothing useful is discarded before its time. A small oil lamp burns beside her. Its flame flickers whenever the breeze reaches the doorway. The light is gentle. It is enough. Across the village, similar scenes unfold behind countless mud-brick walls. An elderly man carefully sharpens a copper blade that has grown dull after many weeks of work. A young mother hums softly while rocking her baby. Two brothers quietly mend the straps of their leather sandals. An old woman folds freshly washed linen before placing it inside a wooden chest. None of these tasks seem grand. Yet together they form the quiet fabric of everyday life. Work does not end when the fields grow dark. It simply changes. The body rests from one kind of labor while the hands begin another. Farther away, near the riverbank, several fishermen prepare for tomorrow before sleep. Their nets must be examined carefully. A single broken section can allow valuable fish to escape. The moonlight is bright enough for experienced eyes. One fisherman slowly untangles a knot that formed during the day's catch. His son sits beside him, watching every movement. He asks only a few quiet questions. The father answers patiently. Some lessons are too gentle to be rushed. The boy studies the way the rope feels between his father's fingers. He notices how every knot has its own purpose. Years from now, when these same hands belong to him, tonight's quiet lesson will still remain. Learning often happens this way. Not inside formal schools. Not through long speeches. But beside rivers. Inside workshops. Along dusty roads. During ordinary evenings shared between generations. The stars grow brighter overhead. Without city lights, the night sky appears almost endless. Everywhere above the Nile, countless tiny points of light shine steadily. Some travelers use them to guide long journeys. Others simply enjoy their quiet beauty after difficult days. The farmer looks upward for a moment. He does not know the names that future generations will give to distant stars. He only knows that they have always been there. His father saw them. His grandfather saw them. His children will look upon the same sky. There is comfort in that thought. The world changes slowly here. The stars seem to change even more slowly. In larger towns, life remains awake a little longer. Temple courtyards become peaceful after the day's visitors have departed. Priests complete their evening duties with calm and careful movements. Oil lamps glow against tall stone columns. The scent of incense lingers gently in the still air. Even here, where magnificent buildings rise toward the heavens, much of the work remains quiet and ordinary. Floors must be swept. Storage rooms must be organized. Water jars must be filled. Records must be copied. Someone must always tend the lamps. Someone must always clean the tools. Behind every beautiful temple stands the patient effort of countless unseen workers. In another part of the town, scribes finish their final records before rolling fresh sheets of papyrus into careful bundles. Their eyes are tired. Hours spent studying tiny symbols beneath dim light leave them blinking often. One young scribe rubs his neck before standing. His back has become stiff from sitting nearly the entire day. His work demands different strengths than that of the farmer, yet exhaustion visits them both before night has fully arrived. The body grows weary in many ways. Outside, the streets become quieter. Merchants close wooden shutters over their small shops. The smell of spices slowly fades. Donkeys rest peacefully after carrying heavy loads across dusty roads. Only an occasional traveler passes beneath the moonlight. Most people have already returned home. The desert beyond the villages has become wonderfully still. The sand, so fiercely hot beneath the afternoon sun, now feels cool beneath bare feet. A fox moves silently across the dunes. Owls watch patiently from rocky hillsides. The wind draws delicate patterns across the sand that will disappear with tomorrow's footsteps. Back in the farming village, sleep gradually spreads from one house to another. The father finally lies down beside his family. There are no soft mattresses. Only woven mats laid carefully upon the floor. A folded piece of linen supports his head. It is simple. Yet after a day of honest work, comfort comes easily. The room grows almost completely dark after the oil lamp is gently extinguished. Only moonlight enters through the small doorway. Outside, insects sing quietly. Palm leaves rustle overhead. The distant sound of flowing water drifts across the fields. It is a peaceful sound. Many children have fallen asleep listening to that river. Many elders have taken their final breaths while hearing the same gentle current. The Nile has witnessed every stage of life. It asks for nothing. It simply continues to flow. Hours pass quietly. The village rests. But not everyone sleeps. Some people work while others dream. Along the river, night watchmen walk slowly between storage buildings. Their footsteps are steady against the packed earth. They carry simple staffs and small lamps whose light reaches only a short distance ahead. The work requires patience more than strength. Most nights are uneventful. They welcome that. A peaceful night is a successful one. Elsewhere, bakers begin waking long before dawn. Their work starts while darkness still covers the land. Fresh grain must become flour. Flour must become dough. Dough must become bread before families begin another day. One baker kneels beside a grinding stone. The movement is slow and familiar. Back and forth. Again. 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 The quiet scraping of stone against stone becomes the first sound of tomorrow. Nearby, another worker carefully feeds dry reeds into a clay oven. Tiny flames slowly awaken. The smell of warm smoke rises into the cool night air. Before sunrise, the village will once again be filled with the comforting scent of fresh bread. In another home, a young girl wakes briefly. She hears the distant crackle of the baker's fire. For a moment, she listens to the peaceful sounds surrounding her. Her parents breathe softly nearby. Outside, a donkey shifts gently in its sleep. The river continues its endless song. She closes her eyes once more. Morning is still far away. Far beyond the villages, where the green land slowly gives way to endless desert, travelers rest beside small camps. Their journey will continue tomorrow. Tonight they share quiet conversation beneath the stars before wrapping themselves in simple blankets. Their camels kneel peacefully nearby. The cool desert air carries the scent of dry sand and distant acacia trees. Even here, far from the fertile fields of the Nile, the same stars watch over every sleeping traveler. As midnight slowly passes, Egypt becomes quieter than at any other hour. The marketplaces are silent. The workshops stand empty. The fields rest beneath silver moonlight. Even the birds seem content to wait for dawn. Yet beneath this peaceful silence lies tomorrow's work already waiting. The grain will still need tending. The canals will still need watching. The fishing nets will still need casting. The stone will still need shaping. The bread will still need baking. None of these tasks arrive with anger. They simply return, as faithfully as the sunrise. And perhaps that is the quiet truth hidden within the work culture of ancient Egypt. Life was not built from rare moments of greatness. It was built from ordinary mornings. From patient hands. From steady footsteps along dusty roads. From families sharing simple meals. From neighbors helping one another through difficult seasons. From craftsmen repairing tools instead of replacing them. From mothers rising before dawn. From fathers returning home beneath evening stars. From children slowly learning by watching those who came before them. Generation after generation, these quiet routines became something stronger than any single monument. They became the unseen foundation beneath an entire civilization. Long before the first rays of sunlight touch the eastern sky, the cool wind drifts once more across the sleeping fields. The reeds whisper softly beside the Nile. The stars begin their slow retreat. And in the peaceful stillness before another day begins, Egypt rests for just a little while longer, wrapped in silence, carried gently by the timeless rhythm of the river. The first light of morning does not arrive all at once. It begins almost unnoticed, as a faint silver glow resting low along the eastern horizon. The stars remain overhead, though they slowly lose their brightness. The moon becomes pale. The outlines of palm trees emerge from the darkness, and the wide ribbon of the Nile reflects the earliest hints of dawn. For a few quiet moments, the world seems to pause. The air is cool. The desert has not yet remembered yesterday's heat. A gentle breeze drifts over the river, carrying the scent of wet reeds, fresh mud, and distant fields that waited patiently through the night. The water moves with its familiar calm, touching the riverbank with soft, steady sounds that have greeted every sunrise for longer than anyone can remember. The village still sleeps. Only a few small signs suggest that another day is beginning. A rooster calls from somewhere beyond the houses. A donkey shifts its weight and lets out a low, sleepy sound. A dog lifts its head before curling back into its resting place. Soon, another cooking fire quietly comes to life. A faint ribbon of smoke rises into the brightening sky. Inside one modest home, the baker's wife is already awake. She sits beside a large clay bowl filled with flour ground during the night. She pours cool water into the center and begins mixing the dough with slow, practiced movements. Her hands know exactly how the mixture should feel. Too much water, and the dough becomes weak. Too little, and it grows difficult to shape. She does not need measuring tools. Years of experience have taught her more than numbers ever could. As she works, the house remains peaceful. The only sounds are the soft turning of dough, the quiet crackle of the oven, and the gentle breathing of children who are still asleep. Soon, warm bread begins to bake. Its comforting smell slips through the doorway and into the narrow village street. One by one, neighbors catch the familiar scent. For many, it is the first welcome of a new day. Not long afterward, the farmer opens his eyes. The room is dim, lit only by the growing daylight outside. His muscles still feel heavy from yesterday's labor. His hands ache slightly when he closes them into fists. There is stiffness in his shoulders. He stretches slowly. These small aches have become companions through the years. He accepts them without complaint. After washing with cool water from a clay jar, he steps outside. The morning air feels wonderfully fresh against his skin. For a little while, the world belongs to quiet voices and gentle footsteps. Neighbors greet one another softly. No one speaks loudly before sunrise. There is something peaceful about these early hours that everyone seems careful to protect. A young boy walks beside his father carrying a small bundle of rope. He has recently become old enough to help in the fields each morning. His steps are eager. Everything still feels new. He notices birds flying low across the river. He watches dragonflies resting on reeds. He asks questions about almost everything they pass. His father answers when he can. Other times, he simply smiles. Some answers will reveal themselves with time. The dusty road leading toward the farmland has already begun filling with workers. Some carry wooden hoes. Others balance woven baskets upon their heads. A few lead oxen toward freshly prepared fields. There is little conversation. Everyone understands where they are going. The same paths have been walked thousands of times before. Their feet know the way almost without thought. As the sun rises above the horizon, the land slowly changes color. The pale gray of dawn becomes soft gold. Palm leaves glow gently in the early light. The river reflects the bright sky like polished bronze. For a brief hour, before the day's heat grows strong, Egypt feels almost cool. This is the favorite time for many workers. The body still has energy. The air is comfortable. Even difficult tasks seem lighter beneath the gentle morning sun. Along one irrigation canal, several men begin clearing reeds that have grown too thick during recent weeks. The work is steady but not hurried. They cut away dry stalks with copper blades. They gather them into bundles. Some of the reeds will repair roofs. Others will become mats, baskets, or simple fences. Almost every part of the plant finds a purpose. Waste is uncommon. The land offers only so much. People have learned to value every useful thing. Nearby, a young woman fills large clay jars with river water. Each jar grows heavier as it fills. She lifts one carefully onto her shoulder. Its weight presses firmly against her body, yet her balance remains steady. She has carried water since childhood. The path from river to village has become as familiar as the rooms of her own home. Other women join her. Their conversation moves gently between ordinary subjects. Someone's daughter has begun learning to weave. A neighbor's goat has recently given birth. An elderly man seems stronger after recovering from illness. The words are simple. Comfort often lives inside simple conversations. Farther along the riverbank, fishermen are already returning with the morning's catch. Several baskets hold tilapia and catfish glistening beneath the growing sunlight. The fish are still fresh. Their scales catch tiny flashes of gold. The fishermen smile quietly. Not every morning is successful. Today has been kind. Soon the fish will be cleaned, salted, traded, or prepared for family meals. Nothing will remain unused. Even the bones may find another purpose. Across the fields, farmers begin inspecting the young crops. They move slowly between neat rows of barley and emmer wheat. The plants sway gently beneath the morning breeze. Each farmer studies the leaves carefully. Healthy crops have a certain appearance. They stand upright. Their color remains rich. Their roots hold firmly in the moist earth. A careful eye notices small changes long before serious problems appear. Experience teaches patience more than speed. One older farmer pauses beside a younger neighbor. Together they examine a section of plants where the soil seems drier than expected. They speak quietly. Perhaps the irrigation channel needs clearing. Perhaps yesterday's water did not reach this corner of the field. There is no blame. Only quiet cooperation. Together they adjust a small earthen barrier, allowing more water to flow gently into the thirsty ground. The change is small. Yet it may save weeks of careful work. Nearby, 2 oxen pull a wooden plow across another field. The animals move with calm determination. The farmer guiding them walks barefoot behind the plow. The damp soil feels cool beneath his feet. Each step presses gently into the earth before disappearing beneath newly turned ground. The plow itself is simple. Wooden. Strong. Repaired many times through careful craftsmanship. It leaves narrow lines stretching across the field like patient handwriting upon the land. Elsewhere, in a growing town not far from the river, another kind of work begins. The streets slowly fill with craftsmen opening their workshops. A carpenter lifts the wooden shutter from his doorway. Inside, the familiar smell of cedar, acacia, and freshly cut wood welcomes him. Sunlight enters through the open entrance, revealing tiny curls of wood left behind from yesterday's work. He smiles quietly. Before making anything new, he sweeps the floor. Order comes first. Only then does he arrange his tools. Each one has its place. A wooden mallet. Copper chisels. Smooth measuring cords. Stone polishers. He runs his fingers across each tool before beginning. Not because he must. Because habit has become part of the craft itself. Across the lane, a potter prepares fresh clay. He kneads it slowly, removing tiny pockets of air that could weaken the finished vessel. The clay is cool and damp. It yields gently beneath his hands. Soon it rests upon the wheel. With one steady push, the wheel begins to turn. Slowly. Evenly. The potter's hands rise around the spinning clay. A simple lump begins changing shape. First a wide bowl. Then a narrow neck. Then smooth walls rising almost effortlessly. Watching such work can feel almost like watching water find its own path. There is no wasted motion. Only calm repetition. The finished vessel joins dozens of others waiting nearby. Some will carry water. Others will store grain. Some will hold precious oils or honey. Many may survive for generations, long after the hands that shaped them have grown still. Not far away, linen weavers begin another quiet morning. Bundles of flax lie neatly arranged beside simple looms. The fibers have already passed through many careful stages. Harvesting. Drying. Separating. Spinning. Now they become cloth. The shuttle passes gently back and forth. Threads slowly cross one another. A smooth piece of linen grows almost unnoticed. The work requires attention. A single broken thread must be repaired before weaving continues. The weaver notices such details immediately. Years of practice have trained both eyes and fingers. Outside the workshop, merchants prepare for another day of trading. They carefully arrange onions, dates, baskets of figs, jars of beer, bundles of garlic, woven mats, polished pottery, and folded linen where passing customers can see them. There is no loud calling yet. Morning still carries a peaceful mood. People arrive gradually. Friends greet one another. Children peek curiously at colorful goods. A merchant weighs grain using simple balance scales. The beam tips gently before settling into perfect balance. He nods with quiet satisfaction. Fairness matters. Trust keeps trade alive. As the sun climbs higher, the warmth slowly returns. The cool hours begin slipping away. Workers glance toward the sky without stopping. They know exactly what is coming. Another long day beneath the Egyptian sun. Another day that will ask for steady hands, patient hearts, and quiet endurance. And so, as the river continues its timeless journey through the green valley, thousands of ordinary lives once again settle into their familiar rhythm, each person adding another peaceful thread to the vast and enduring fabric of ancient Egypt. As the morning slowly unfolds, the warmth of the sun begins to spread across the valley once again. The cool air that welcomed the first workers before dawn quietly slips away. It lingers for a little while beneath clusters of date palms and inside the thick mud brick walls of homes, but out in the open fields the sunlight grows stronger with every passing moment. Still, no one seems surprised. The people of the Nile have known this rhythm all their lives. The warmth is expected. The work is expected. The day simply opens itself, one familiar hour after another. Along the edge of a wide barley field, a group of farmers pauses beside a narrow canal. The water has traveled many miles before reaching this place. It left the broad current of the Nile, entered larger channels, then smaller ones, until finally it arrived here, moving gently between banks carefully shaped by human hands. One older farmer crouches near the flowing water. He scoops a handful into his palms. For a moment, he lets it rest there before splashing it across his face. The coolness is welcome. Tiny drops fall back into the canal, sending soft circles across the surface. He smiles quietly. Not because anything remarkable has happened. Simply because cool water on a warm morning is one of life's small comforts. Nearby, his daughter carries bundles of young flax toward another field. The plants are light now, but she knows they will soon become linen that may be worn by people she will never meet. Perhaps a farmer in another village. Perhaps a merchant. Perhaps a temple worker. She does not think very much about where the cloth will finally go. Her attention stays with today's task. She lays each bundle carefully where it belongs. The work is simple. Simple work often asks for great care. Beyond the fields, a pair of boys walk slowly beside a herd of goats. The animals wander between patches of grass growing near the riverbank. Every few moments one goat strays too far. One of the boys whistles softly. The animal turns, almost reluctantly, and rejoins the others. The boys carry long wooden staffs, though they rarely need to use them. Mostly they walk. They watch. They wait. Sometimes they sit beneath a tree while the herd grazes peacefully. To someone passing by, it may seem like an easy morning. Yet it requires constant attention. A single wandering goat can disappear into thick reeds or begin eating crops that belong to another family. Responsibility often begins quietly in childhood. No one announces the moment. It simply arrives. Farther downstream, where the Nile widens for a time before bending gently around a cluster of trees, several women gather to wash clothing. They kneel upon smooth stones worn by countless years of flowing water. The linen is dipped beneath the surface. Lifted. Pressed. Rinsed again. The steady rhythm becomes almost like breathing. The river carries away dust collected from workshops, fields, kitchens, and village roads. As they work, the women speak softly with one another. One tells of her youngest son's first day helping his father harvest reeds. Another mentions that an elderly neighbor slept better after several difficult nights. Someone laughs gently as she remembers a child chasing chickens across the courtyard the evening before. The laughter is warm but never loud. Soon it melts back into the quiet sounds of flowing water. Nearby, children search along the riverbank for smooth stones. Some are perfectly round. Others shine with tiny flecks of color when sunlight touches them. To the children, each one feels like a small treasure. They compare their discoveries before carefully placing them into little woven pouches. For a while, they forget entirely about the passing hours. The river has a way of doing that. It invites people to slow down. The same river that feeds great fields and carries trading boats also becomes a place for quiet moments shared between families. Not every hour belongs to labor alone. In another village farther north, smoke rises from a pottery kiln. The firing has continued through much of the night. Now the potter waits patiently for the heat inside to lessen. Opening the kiln too soon could crack the finished vessels. Waiting is part of the craft. He has learned that many times. So he sits beneath the shade of a woven shelter, sipping cool water from a clay cup while watching the sunlight creep slowly across the ground. Eventually the time feels right. Carefully, he opens the kiln. Warm air escapes first. Then the rich smell of baked clay. Inside, rows of bowls, jars, and storage vessels glow softly with the color of sun-baked earth. He lifts each one carefully. A tiny tap with his finger tells him much. A clear sound means the clay has hardened well. A dull sound suggests a hidden crack. Most of today's work has succeeded. Only 2 vessels show small fractures. He sets them aside. Even broken pottery may later become useful. Small pieces can strengthen new floors. Others may support cooking fires. Very little is simply thrown away. Across the valley, in the shade of a sycamore fig tree, an elderly basket maker continues his work. His fingers move more slowly than they once did. Age has softened neither his patience nor his skill. Thin reeds lie beside him in neat bundles. One by one, they become part of a growing basket. The pattern seems almost effortless. Over. Under. Around. Pull gently. Repeat. Children passing by often stop to watch. They wonder how loose reeds become something strong enough to carry grain or vegetables. The old man smiles. Sometimes he lets them try. The first attempts are uneven. The reeds slip apart. Small gaps appear. The children frown with concentration. He quietly adjusts their hands. No criticism. Only guidance. Learning grows best in calm soil. Near the larger towns, barges begin moving steadily along the Nile. Their broad wooden decks carry sacks of grain, bundles of papyrus, stone blocks, pottery, and woven cloth. Some travel north with the current. Others raise square linen sails to catch the gentle southern wind that often blows upstream. The movement is graceful. The boats seem almost silent from a distance. A captain stands near the stern, watching both river and sky. He knows where the current becomes stronger. He recognizes hidden sandbanks beneath the surface. He notices subtle changes in the wind long before younger sailors do. Years upon the Nile have taught him lessons that cannot be written. Nearby, several young sailors coil thick ropes after securing the cargo. Their hands are rough from constant work. Small calluses cover their palms. The rope leaves faint marks across their skin. None of them pay much attention. These marks have become part of everyday life. As the boats continue their journey, villages slowly pass along both banks. Farmers wave briefly from distant fields. Children run to the water's edge. Fishermen lift their nets. Palm trees sway gently overhead. The river connects all these lives together. Though many people never travel far from the place where they were born, the Nile quietly carries stories, goods, and ideas from one community to another. In the growing towns, scribes continue their careful work. A young apprentice sits cross-legged before a low wooden board. Fresh papyrus rests neatly in front of him. His teacher has assigned him the same symbols he practiced yesterday, and the day before, and many days before that. Progress comes slowly. The apprentice occasionally sighs without realizing it. The teacher notices. He says nothing. Instead, he writes one elegant line across another sheet. Every stroke is smooth. Every mark is balanced. Without speaking, he reminds the boy that beautiful writing is born from patience rather than speed. The lesson settles quietly into the room. Outside, the streets become busier as the morning advances. Merchants weigh grain upon balanced scales. Donkeys carry fresh vegetables toward market. A carpenter delivers a newly finished stool to a nearby household. The legs are simple, strong, even. He runs one hand lightly across the smooth wood before leaving it at the doorway. There is quiet satisfaction in work completed well. Not pride that seeks attention. Only the peaceful feeling of knowing something useful has entered the world. The family receiving the stool thanks him warmly. It will serve them during meals. Children may stand upon it to reach high shelves. An elder may rest upon it while mending fishing nets. Perhaps, many years from now, another generation will still be using it. Good craftsmanship often outlives its maker. As the sun climbs steadily higher, shimmering waves of heat begin dancing above the open fields. The air grows still. Birdsong becomes less frequent. Even the insects seem quieter beneath the bright sky. Workers instinctively slow their pace. Not because the work matters less. Because the body understands its limits. A farmer wraps a piece of linen around his head to shield himself from the strongest sunlight. Another drinks carefully from a clay jar buried partly in cool earth. The water tastes fresh despite the growing heat. He drinks only enough to satisfy his thirst. There will need to be enough for later. Nothing is wasted. Not water. Not food. Not strength. These quiet habits have been shaped by generations who learned to live with the rhythm of the river and the desert alike. By now the morning has gently become midday. The sunlight shines brightly across the broad valley, illuminating fields, workshops, villages, and riverboats with the same warm glow. The day's work continues, steady and unhurried, carried forward by countless ordinary people whose names history may never remember, yet whose patient hands keep the ancient world alive, one peaceful hour after another. By the time the sun reaches its highest place in the sky, the entire Nile Valley seems wrapped in a blanket of bright, shimmering light. The fields glow beneath the afternoon sun. The river sparkles where the breeze touches its surface. The pale walls of mud-brick homes reflect the light so gently that the villages almost seem to blend into the earth from which they were built. This is the warmest part of the day. Everyone feels it. Even those who have spent their entire lives beneath the Egyptian sky never stop respecting the afternoon heat. It is simply another part of the land. Another quiet companion that arrives each day before slowly drifting away again. The farmers continue their work, though their movements become slower and more careful. They have learned that strength must be used wisely. A hurried worker becomes an exhausted worker. An exhausted worker cannot finish the day. So every motion is measured. Every step has a purpose. One farmer kneels beside a young stand of barley. He gently brushes loose soil away from the base of the stalks. The plants sway ever so slightly in the warm breeze. He studies them without speaking. There are tiny signs that tell him how they are growing. The color of the leaves. The firmness of the stems. The moisture beneath the surface of the soil. These are things that cannot be learned in a single season. They are understood only after many years of quiet observation. His father once knelt in these same fields. His grandfather likely did the same. The land teaches slowly. Those willing to listen carry its lessons for a lifetime. Not far away, several women work together beneath the shade of tall date palms. Bundles of harvested flax lie neatly beside them. The long fibers are separated with patient hands. Each strand is cleaned carefully before being gathered into smooth bundles. The work requires attention more than strength. A careless pull can break the delicate fibers. A gentle hand preserves them. One woman pauses for a moment and wipes a strand of hair from her forehead. Another passes her a small cup of cool water. No words are needed. Small acts of kindness move quietly through the village each day. They are so common that few people think to speak of them. Yet they make long hours feel lighter. Nearby, a little girl watches the women work. She sits cross-legged upon the ground, holding several loose strands of flax between her fingers. She tries to copy the movements she has been observing. The fibers slip apart. She begins again. An older woman notices and smiles softly. She reaches over without interrupting her own work. With calm hands, she gently guides the child's fingers. The lesson lasts only a few moments. Then both return to their own tasks. This is how knowledge often travels through the generations. Quietly. Patiently. Without ceremony. Across another part of the valley, the steady sound of hammers echoes from a stone workshop. The noise is never harsh. It rises and falls like a slow rhythm. Tap. Pause. Tap. Pause. Dust hangs in the warm air where sunlight enters through the open doorway. The stone workers have already been laboring since early morning. Fine white powder now covers their sandals. Their arms shine with perspiration. One experienced craftsman carefully inspects a limestone block before making another cut. He runs his fingers across the surface. Tiny imperfections reveal themselves through touch more easily than sight. He adjusts his chisel slightly. Then strikes again. The stone answers with a clean, clear sound. Each careful blow removes only a little. There is no advantage in forcing the work. Stone rewards patience. Haste leaves cracks. Nearby, an apprentice gathers the small chips scattered across the floor. He places them into baskets. Even these fragments may later become useful as filler beneath walls or pathways. Nothing is ignored. Every piece has value. Outside the workshop, the afternoon sun fills the streets with brilliant light. Many people choose the shaded side of the road as they walk. Palm trees cast long, narrow shadows. Canvas awnings stretch above market stalls, offering welcome relief from the heat. A merchant rearranges jars of honey so they remain out of direct sunlight. Another adjusts woven baskets filled with onions and garlic. A young boy helps sprinkle a little water onto the dusty ground outside his family's stall. For a short while, the damp earth cools the air nearby. The scent of wet soil rises gently around them. Customers seem grateful for the small comfort. Trade continues at an easy pace. There is no rush. People stop to greet old friends before discussing grain, cloth, or pottery. A merchant asks about a neighbor's mother, who has recently recovered from illness. A customer inquires whether this year's date harvest has begun. Conversations drift naturally between family, weather, and work. Business and daily life are not separate things. They flow together, just like the branches of the Nile. Beyond the marketplace, inside a modest home, an elderly man rests upon a woven mat near the doorway. The shade keeps the room pleasantly cool. His grandchildren sit nearby, busy with their own small tasks. One twists fibers into cord. Another shapes little figures from damp clay gathered near the river. The old man watches quietly. After some time, he begins telling a story. His voice is calm. It rises only enough for the children to hear. He speaks of the great flood seasons from long ago. He remembers years when the Nile rose high enough to leave rich black soil across every nearby field. He recalls neighbors working together to repair damaged canals after unusually strong waters. He does not tell the story to impress anyone. He tells it because memory is useful. The children listen carefully. Someday these memories will become theirs to pass along. Farther downriver, several boats have tied themselves to simple wooden posts along the bank. The crews gather beneath woven shelters for a brief meal. Fresh bread is divided among them. Alongside it are onions, dried fish, and a few dates. The meal is simple. It provides enough strength for the afternoon ahead. One sailor removes his sandals and places his feet into the cool river. He sighs quietly. The water washes away dust gathered during the morning's work. Another sailor laughs softly as tiny fish dart around his ankles. For a few peaceful moments, nobody speaks. The river itself seems to encourage silence. Soon enough, they return to work. The cargo must continue its journey before sunset. Heavy ropes are untied. The sail is lifted. The afternoon breeze catches the linen cloth. Slowly, almost gracefully, the boat begins moving once more. Along the shore, a fisherman repairs a section of net that tore against submerged branches the day before. The fibers are coarse beneath his fingertips. He threads new cord through the damaged area with practiced ease. His hands never stop moving. He hardly needs to look. Years of repetition have turned the task into something almost effortless. Beside him, his youngest son watches closely. The boy occasionally asks a question. His father answers with only a few words before returning to the net. Much is learned simply by observing. One day the boy's hands will move with the same quiet confidence. Back in the fields, the afternoon grows still. The wind becomes gentler. The insects sing steadily among the reeds. A white egret steps carefully through shallow water, searching for small fish hidden beneath the surface. Nearby, an ibis stands perfectly still for so long that it almost seems carved from stone. Nature itself appears unhurried. The people who live here have learned to match its pace. A hurried life would feel out of place beside this slow-moving river. The farmer finishes checking the last irrigation channel before allowing himself a few moments beneath the shade of a sycamore tree. He sits upon the ground with his back against the broad trunk. The bark feels rough through his linen clothing. He drinks from a clay jar that has remained surprisingly cool in the shade. Nearby, another farmer joins him. Neither speaks immediately. The silence is comfortable. At length, one comments that the barley appears healthy this season. The other nods. They discuss whether the next flood may arrive a little earlier this year. Neither claims certainty. The river has always kept some of its secrets. After resting only a short while, both men rise again. The work is not yet finished. It rarely is before sunset. They brush dust from their clothing and return to the fields with the same steady pace they have followed since morning. As the afternoon slowly begins its gentle turn toward evening, the sunlight softens almost too gradually to notice. The shadows become just a little longer. The breeze from the Nile carries a touch more coolness than before. Across Egypt, from the smallest farming village to the busiest riverside town, ordinary men and women continue their quiet routines. They lift. They carry. They weave. They carve. They write. They fish. They bake. They mend. Their names may never be carved into stone monuments or remembered by distant generations. Yet every loaf of bread, every woven basket, every repaired canal, every carefully shaped pot, and every field of grain quietly tells the story of their lives. And as another afternoon gently unfolds beneath the endless Egyptian sky, the civilization along the Nile continues not through grand moments, but through thousands of patient hands working together in calm, familiar rhythm. As the afternoon slowly begins to soften, the bright light above the Nile loses a little of its sharpness. The sun still hangs high in the sky, but its long journey toward the western horizon has quietly begun. Almost no one pauses to notice the change. It happens so gradually that only the shadows seem to understand. Little by little, they stretch farther across the fields, reaching toward the river with silent patience. A breeze returns. It is gentle at first. Just enough to stir the tops of the barley and make the leaves of the date palms whisper softly to one another. The farmers welcome it without saying a word. Cool air, even in small amounts, is a quiet gift after many hours beneath the Egyptian sun. In one field, several workers bend together to gather bundles of flax that have dried beneath the afternoon warmth. Each bundle is tied with strips of woven fiber. One worker lifts a bundle onto his shoulder. Another follows. The path toward the storage building is familiar, its packed earth worn smooth by years of footsteps. The bundles are stacked carefully inside. They are not thrown. They are placed. Each stack must remain dry. Each bundle should be easy to reach when the time comes to spin the fibers into thread. Simple care now prevents greater work later. That lesson is understood throughout the village. A little farther away, an elderly farmer kneels beside a young boy. The boy has been trying to tie together a small bundle of reeds. His fingers move quickly. Too quickly. The knot slips apart. The reeds scatter across the ground. The old farmer does not laugh. He does not become impatient. Instead, he gathers the reeds one by one. He places them back into the boy's hands. Then, without many words, he ties another bundle. Slowly. Deliberately. The boy watches every movement. This time he notices how the older man's thumbs hold the reed steady while the cord is pulled tight. He tries again. The knot still is not perfect. But it holds. The old farmer nods once. Sometimes approval needs only a single quiet gesture. The boy smiles to himself and carries the bundle toward the growing stack. Nearby, two oxen continue pulling a wooden cart filled with clay jars. The cart creaks softly with every turn of its wheels. The sound has echoed along these roads for generations. The driver walks beside the animals instead of riding. Every so often he reaches out to gently pat one of the oxen on its neck. The animals know his voice. They recognize his footsteps. Years of working together have created a quiet understanding between them. There is no need for loud commands. A few soft words are enough. The road leading toward the river is busy, though never crowded. People travel at a comfortable pace. A woman balances a basket of fresh vegetables upon her head while carrying a small child by the hand. A potter carefully transports newly fired bowls wrapped in woven straw. A young man carries bundles of papyrus reeds gathered earlier that morning. Everyone has somewhere to be. Yet no one seems to hurry. The rhythm of the day encourages steady movement rather than speed. Along the riverbank, the afternoon light dances upon the water. Small boats drift quietly near the shore. One fisherman checks a line stretched between two wooden stakes. Another empties a woven fish trap placed in shallow water before sunrise. Today's catch is modest. Several tilapia. A few catfish. Enough to feed a family and perhaps trade with a neighbor. He seems satisfied. The river does not promise the same gift every day. Some mornings are generous. Others are quiet. Those who live beside the Nile learn to accept both with equal patience. A young girl sits nearby watching her grandmother clean the fish. The older woman's knife moves with careful precision. Scales catch the sunlight before falling into the water. The girl asks if she may help. Her grandmother nods. She begins by washing the cleaned fish in the river. The cold water slips between her fingers. She smiles. The task feels important. Even small responsibilities bring quiet pride. The grandmother watches closely but says little. Learning grows stronger through doing. As the afternoon breeze strengthens, birds become more active again. White egrets glide low across the marshes. Swallows dart through the air chasing insects above the fields. A flock of ducks lands upon a quiet stretch of water with gentle splashes. For a moment, the only sounds are wings, water, and wind. Even the workers seem to move in harmony with them. Not far from the village, where a grove of sycamore fig trees offers broad patches of shade, several craftsmen pause for a short rest. A carpenter sits upon a freshly cut log. Beside him rests a wooden chest nearly finished except for its lid. He runs his hand across the smooth surface. There is satisfaction in wood that has been carefully shaped. Nearby, a stone mason drinks from a clay cup. His hands remain dusted with pale limestone. Tiny white lines have settled into the creases of his skin. He notices them only when washing before sleep. For now, they are simply part of the day's work. The two men exchange a few quiet words. They speak about a shipment of cedar wood expected to arrive by boat in the coming weeks. The carpenter wonders whether the timber will be straight and free from large knots. The mason remarks that strong wood deserves careful hands. Then both fall silent again. Silence between friends never feels uncomfortable here. It simply becomes another form of conversation. In the nearby workshop, apprentices continue sweeping wood shavings from the floor. The scent of fresh timber fills the room. Small curls of cedar and acacia gather into neat piles. Nothing useful is wasted. Even the smallest pieces may later become kindling for cooking fires. One apprentice carefully oils the wooden handles of several tools. The wood drinks the oil slowly. It darkens in color and becomes smooth beneath his cloth. The master craftsman taught him that tools deserve care. A well-kept tool serves faithfully for many years. Neglect shortens its life. The lesson applies to many things. Tools, homes, fields, even friendships. Across the marketplace, the busiest hours have begun to pass. Most families have already purchased what they need for the evening meal. The merchant selling dates rearranges the few baskets that remain. He removes damaged fruit before it can spoil the rest. Another merchant counts folded pieces of linen received through trade earlier that day. Nearby, a woman examines a newly woven basket. She turns it gently in her hands. Her fingers press lightly against the tightly woven reeds. The basket feels strong. She nods. The basket maker smiles quietly. No long conversation is necessary. Both understand good workmanship when they see it. Children wander through the market carrying small errands from their parents. One boy carefully balances a tiny jar of cooking oil. Another carries onions wrapped inside a cloth. An older sister reminds her younger brother not to run. He slows his steps, though only for a little while. Soon curiosity draws his attention toward a potter arranging brightly polished bowls. He stops to watch. The potter notices. Without speaking, he hands the boy a small piece of unfired clay. The child rolls it between his fingers while his sister finishes her shopping. The clay leaves cool traces upon his hands. He shapes it into a tiny bird before gently setting it aside. The potter smiles. Even the smallest moments may plant the beginning of a future craft. As the afternoon gradually leans toward evening, activity begins shifting once more toward the fields. Farmers make one final walk through their crops. They inspect irrigation channels. They gather forgotten tools. They count bundles harvested during the day. One man pauses beside a canal where the water moves quietly between low earthen banks. He notices a small section where the edge has begun to crumble. Without delay, he kneels. Using only his hands, he presses fresh mud firmly into place. A few reeds strengthen the repair. The task takes only several minutes. Tomorrow morning the canal will continue carrying water exactly where it should. Small repairs performed today prevent larger troubles tomorrow. It is a simple habit. One that has quietly protected the harvest through countless generations. The sunlight now carries a softer golden color. The river reflects long ribbons of light that shimmer with every gentle ripple. Palm trees cast longer shadows across the fields. The air smells faintly of warm earth, fresh reeds, and distant cooking fires that have just begun to awaken in the village. Somewhere beyond the fields, a baker places another round of dough into a clay oven. The familiar aroma of fresh bread drifts slowly across the evening breeze. Workers notice it. A few smile. Home is not far away now. The day has been long. Their shoulders are tired. Their hands are rough. Dust clings to their sandals. Yet there is comfort in knowing that soon they will return to familiar voices, simple meals, and the quiet peace of another evening beside the timeless waters of the Nile, where tomorrow's work already waits with gentle patience beneath the slowly darkening sky. The afternoon slowly gives way to evening, so gently that it is difficult to notice the exact moment when one becomes the other. The sunlight softens. The bright white glow that covered the valley only a short while ago begins to turn a deeper shade of gold. Every field seems warmer in color. The trunks of date palms shine softly in the fading light, and the quiet water of the Nile reflects long ribbons of amber that stretch almost to the riverbank. For many workers, this is their favorite hour. The hardest heat has passed. The air feels lighter. The breeze carries a little coolness from the water, and breathing becomes easier again. No one mistakes this for the end of the day's work. There are still many small tasks waiting. But the land itself seems to relax. The farmer walks once more through the rows of barley. He is not searching for anything unusual. This final walk has become a habit over many years. He notices whether a section of earth has dried more quickly than expected. He checks that no animal has wandered into the field. He looks toward the irrigation channel, watching the water move quietly where it should. Satisfied, he places his wooden hoe across one shoulder. The tool feels almost like an old friend. Its handle has become polished by years of use. There are tiny marks where repairs have been made with careful hands. Every scratch tells the story of another season. He pauses for a moment before beginning the walk home. The field grows quiet behind him. Only the wind continues moving through the grain. The barley bends together like gentle waves upon a green sea. Not far away, another family gathers vegetables before sunset. A mother kneels beside rows of onions, loosening the soil around each bulb with her fingers. Her eldest daughter follows behind, placing the onions into a woven basket. The younger children collect any loose leaves that may later be fed to goats. Even the smallest task becomes useful. Nothing from the field is ignored without reason. The youngest child proudly carries a single onion nearly as large as both of his hands together. His family smiles. To them, his careful effort matters as much as the size of the harvest. Learning begins with small responsibilities. Along the riverbank, fishermen pull in their final nets of the day. The water glows beneath the evening light. As the net rises slowly from the Nile, droplets fall back into the river like tiny pieces of crystal. Several fish flash silver as they twist gently within the woven fibers. The catch is modest. Enough. One fisherman untangles the net with slow patience. His son kneels beside him, handing over each fish one at a time. The boy has become quicker over the past year. His father notices. He says little. Instead, he gives the boy a nod of quiet approval. The child understands immediately. Some praise is spoken. Some is simply seen. The small wooden boat is guided toward shore. Its worn hull brushes softly against the muddy bank. The fishermen lift baskets onto their shoulders before beginning the familiar walk toward the village. Behind them, the Nile continues flowing with its endless calm, carrying the evening sky upon its surface. Farther inland, the roads begin filling with returning workers. From a distance they appear almost like a slow-moving stream. Some walk alone. Others travel beside neighbors with whom they have worked all day. Their conversations are gentle. No one feels the need to hurry. There is comfort in ending the day together. One pair of brothers discusses repairs that will soon be needed on the roof of their home before the next flood season. Another group speaks about a donkey that recently wandered into a neighbor's melon patch. The story is told with quiet smiles. No voices are raised. The long day has softened everyone. As they pass beneath rows of palm trees, fallen dates lie scattered upon the ground. Children walking behind the adults eagerly gather them. Some are placed into little baskets. Others are carefully tucked into cloth bags. A sweet date found along the road feels like a small evening gift. The children compare their collections. One has found 3. Another has found 5. The youngest proudly carries only one, holding it tightly as though it were a treasure. Across the valley, smoke begins rising from dozens of cooking fires. Thin gray lines drift upward into the calm evening air. The smell of baking bread returns once again. Soon it is joined by the scent of lentils simmering slowly inside clay pots. Garlic warms in fresh oil. Onions soften over glowing coals. A few homes prepare fish caught earlier that afternoon. Others cook beans seasoned with herbs gathered from small gardens beside the river. Every home carries its own familiar smell. A traveler passing through the village could almost follow the scents from one doorway to the next. Inside one modest house, an elderly grandmother kneels beside the oven. She removes fresh loaves one at a time with a wooden paddle. The crust has turned a warm golden brown. Steam escapes as each loaf cools. Nearby, two grandchildren wait patiently. The smell fills the room. The youngest child reaches forward. His grandmother laughs softly and tears away a small piece before handing it to him. He blows gently across the warm bread before taking a careful bite. His eyes brighten. Fresh bread at the end of a long day is one of life's quiet joys. The family gathers together as the father returns from the fields. Dust covers the lower part of his linen clothing. His sandals show signs of another long walk across dry paths. Before entering the house, he pours cool water over his hands and feet from a clay jar resting near the doorway. The water carries away fine dust gathered throughout the day. The feeling is refreshing. Almost every evening begins this way. Inside, the children eagerly tell him about their own work. One helped gather onions. Another carried water from the river without spilling a drop. The youngest proudly announces that he fed the family's chickens by himself. Their father listens with patient attention. To an outsider, these tasks might seem small. Within the family, they are important steps toward becoming capable adults. The evening meal is simple. Fresh bread rests in the center of a woven mat. There are bowls of lentils, slices of onion, a handful of dates, small pieces of roasted fish. Everyone eats slowly. The meal is not only about satisfying hunger. It is also the quiet moment when the family gathers after spending much of the day apart. Stories are shared. Questions are asked. Plans for tomorrow are spoken softly. No one remains at the table for long after eating. There are still small tasks waiting before darkness fully arrives. Outside, the last light fades across the western sky. The colors change from warm gold to soft orange, then to pale rose. Finally, the first deep shades of blue return overhead. One by one, the brightest stars begin appearing. The village grows quieter. A shepherd counts his goats before closing their simple enclosure. A woman folds linen that has dried perfectly in the afternoon sun. A potter stacks finished vessels inside his workshop, protecting them from the cool night air. A carpenter gathers his tools into a wooden chest. Each chisel is wiped clean before being placed inside. Tomorrow morning they will be ready once again. Not because they are new. Because they have been cared for. Care is part of every craft. Along the river, several boys fill large clay jars with fresh water before darkness makes the path more difficult to see. The jars feel heavy as they lift them. The older boys encourage the younger ones to walk slowly. There is no need to rush. The water will still be there tomorrow. But tonight's family will need it before dawn. As the final glow disappears beyond the western horizon, the breeze grows cooler. Palm leaves sway gently overhead. The first sounds of crickets begin rising from the grasses near the river. Frogs call quietly from shallow pools left behind by the Nile. The whole valley seems to breathe more slowly. The labor of the day gradually settles into peaceful stillness. The fields that only hours before echoed with footsteps, voices, and the creak of wooden carts now rest beneath the gathering twilight. The workshops fall silent. The marketplace empties. Boats are tied securely along the shore. The river alone continues its endless journey, never hurried, never delayed. And all across the ancient land, ordinary workers make their way home through the fading light, carrying tired bodies, dusty sandals, and the quiet satisfaction that comes from another honest day lived beside the life-giving waters of the Nile. Night settles over the Nile with quiet confidence. The last colors of sunset have faded beyond the western desert, leaving behind a deep blue sky scattered with countless stars. One by one, small oil lamps appear inside the homes of the village. Their gentle flames glow through open doorways, casting warm circles of light onto the dusty paths outside. The heat of the day is almost gone now. The mud-brick walls, which sheltered families from the afternoon sun, slowly release the warmth they gathered during the long daylight hours. The evening breeze carries the fresh scent of river water through the narrow streets, mixing with the lingering smell of baked bread and cooking fires that are beginning to fade into glowing coals. For the first time since before sunrise, the village feels completely at ease. The fields can no longer be worked. The workshops have fallen silent. The boats have been tied securely along the riverbank. The day's labor has gently come to rest. Outside one small house, several neighbors gather beneath a broad sycamore fig tree. No one has planned this meeting. It happens naturally, just as it has happened for many years. Someone brings a low wooden stool. Another spreads a woven mat upon the ground. An elderly woman carries a small basket filled with fresh dates gathered earlier that afternoon. The fruit is passed from hand to hand without counting. There is enough for everyone. Conversation moves slowly. No one speaks over another. The day's work has left everyone pleasantly tired. Their voices match the peaceful rhythm of the evening. A farmer mentions that the southern irrigation channel held its water well today. A fisherman quietly says that tomorrow he hopes to cast his nets before the first birds begin calling. A basket maker listens more than he speaks. He enjoys hearing familiar voices carried gently by the evening wind. Nearby, children invent quiet games beneath the moonlight. They chase one another between palm trees before slowing to collect smooth stones from the edge of the path. One little boy carefully arranges the stones into neat circles upon the ground. His younger sister watches closely before making a circle of her own. Neither knows exactly why the game feels enjoyable. Perhaps it is simply pleasant to build something with patient hands. Their laughter rises softly before fading once again into the calm night. Parents keep one eye on the children while continuing their conversations. No one seems worried. The village itself feels like one large family. Everyone knows whose child belongs to which home. If one youngster wanders too close to the river, any nearby adult gently guides them back toward safer ground. Care is shared. Responsibility is shared. Life is shared. A short walk away, inside a modest workshop, the village carpenter has not yet gone to sleep. Tomorrow he plans to begin making a new storage chest for a family expecting their first child. Tonight he prepares the wood. He studies several cedar boards resting against the wall. Running his fingertips across the grain, he searches for the strongest pieces. Each board has its own character. Some are perfectly straight. Others bend ever so slightly. He turns them carefully beneath the light of a small oil lamp. The shadows move slowly across the wood. Finally, he chooses the boards he will use. There is no hurry to begin cutting. Choosing well is part of the work itself. He places the selected wood neatly beside his bench before extinguishing the lamp. Tomorrow will arrive soon enough. Across the village, another craftsman continues repairing a broken fishing net. The torn section is not large. Still, even a small opening can allow fish to escape. His wife sits beside him spinning fresh thread from flax fibers. The spindle turns smoothly between her fingers. Round and round. Again and again. The soft twisting sound blends with the gentle singing of crickets outside. Neither speaks very much. After many years together, silence feels comfortable. Sometimes companionship needs no words at all. A young apprentice passes quietly through the village carrying a bundle of papyrus. He has spent much of the day practicing the careful writing of his teacher. His shoulders ache from sitting. His fingers still hold faint traces of black ink. Tomorrow he will practice again. The symbols that now seem difficult will someday become as natural as breathing. Learning asks only for patience. The apprentice smiles to himself as he thinks of the progress he has already made. It has been slow. But slow progress is still progress. Far beyond the houses, where the fields meet the open desert, the night becomes wonderfully still. The barley sways gently beneath the moonlight. A cool wind moves across the crops, creating soft waves that travel from one end of the field to the other. The sound is almost like quiet whispering. Owls begin their silent flights above the farmland. Their wings make almost no sound as they glide through the darkness. Small desert animals leave their hiding places now that the heat has disappeared. A fox moves carefully between low shrubs. Tiny footprints appear in the soft sand behind it. By morning, the breeze may erase every trace. Nature leaves gentle marks. Time quietly smooths them away. Back along the riverbank, several watchmen begin their nightly walk. Each carries a simple wooden staff and a small lamp protected from the breeze. Their footsteps are unhurried. They pause now and then beside storage buildings filled with grain collected after the harvest. The grain represents many months of careful work. Protecting it is an important responsibility. One watchman listens for a moment. He hears only frogs, insects, and the slow movement of the Nile. Satisfied, he continues his walk. These peaceful nights are exactly what he hopes for. Not every worker labors beneath the sun. Some quietly guard the sleeping village while others rest. Along one narrow canal, the water continues flowing beneath the moon. Its surface reflects the stars so clearly that they seem almost close enough to touch. A young man stops while carrying water home. He sets down his clay jar for just a moment. The canal is silent. The stars above remain perfectly still. He watches his own reflection gently ripple across the surface. For a few peaceful breaths, there is nothing else demanding his attention. Then he lifts the jar once more and continues toward home. Inside many houses, families prepare for sleep. The youngest children have already drifted into dreams. Their woven mats lie side by side across cool earthen floors. An older sister quietly covers her little brother with a folded linen cloth as the night air becomes cooler. Nearby, their mother stores tomorrow's bread inside a clay container to keep it fresh until morning. Their father checks the leather straps of his sandals one last time. One strap has begun to loosen. He knots it carefully. A few moments of repair tonight may save valuable time tomorrow morning. The small habit has become part of every evening. Around him, the room grows peaceful. The oil lamp flickers gently. Its light dances across the walls before slowly growing smaller. Elsewhere in the village, an elderly couple sits outside their doorway beneath the stars. They have watched many seasons pass. Many floodwaters arrive and depart. Many children grow into parents. Many neighbors come and go. They no longer hurry through the evenings. Instead, they simply enjoy the cool breeze drifting across the fields. The old man notices the familiar pattern of stars above the eastern horizon. His wife points toward a shooting star that briefly crosses the sky before disappearing into darkness. Neither speaks for several moments. Some sights ask only to be quietly appreciated. As the night deepens, the sounds of the village become fewer. A donkey shifts gently inside its shelter. Goats settle close together. The last cooking fire quietly fades beneath a blanket of ash. Only the insects continue their endless evening song. The Nile keeps flowing as faithfully as ever. Its gentle current has carried the lives of these people from one day to the next, just as it carried the lives of their parents and grandparents before them. Tomorrow morning, before the first light reaches the eastern sky, ovens will be warmed again. Grinding stones will begin their steady rhythm. Farmers will shoulder their wooden tools. Fishermen will push their boats into the quiet water. Scribes will unroll fresh sheets of papyrus. Builders will lift stone. Potters will shape clay. Merchants will open their stalls. Children will wake ready to help in whatever small ways they can. Yet for now, none of those tasks ask for attention. Tonight belongs to rest. Tonight belongs to cool air drifting through open doorways, to gentle conversations fading into silence, to tired hands finally becoming still, and to the endless, peaceful song of the Nile flowing beneath a sky filled with ancient stars. The deepest hours of the night settle softly across the Nile Valley. The stars seem brighter now than they did earlier in the evening. They fill the sky from one horizon to the other, shining above the quiet river, the sleeping villages, the distant temples, and the endless stretch of desert beyond the fertile land. The world has become wonderfully still. Even the breeze has grown gentle. It slips through the leaves of the date palms with such care that they barely rustle. The reeds along the riverbank sway slowly, brushing against one another with a sound so soft that it blends into the steady murmur of flowing water. Inside the homes of the village, nearly every lamp has gone dark. Only a few remain lit. A tiny flame glows inside the house of a woman whose youngest child has become restless during the night. She sits quietly beside the little one, humming a familiar melody that her own mother once sang to her many years before. The song is simple. Its words are old. Perhaps no one remembers who first began singing it. That no longer matters. The melody has traveled from one generation to another, carried not on papyrus or carved into stone, but held gently in memory. Before long, the child falls asleep once again. The mother smiles softly. She adjusts the folded linen covering the little one and quietly blows out the lamp. Darkness returns to the room. Outside, the village seems almost untouched by time. The mud-brick homes rest peacefully beneath the stars. The narrow paths between them are empty now. During the day they welcomed farmers, potters, fishermen, merchants, and children carrying baskets or water jars. Now only the occasional cat wanders silently across the packed earth. Its paws leave almost no sound. It disappears into the shadows between two houses, searching patiently for a quiet place to spend the remainder of the night. Not far away, a pair of donkeys sleeps beneath a simple shelter made from wooden posts and woven reeds. One flicks an ear now and then. The other breathes slowly, completely at ease. Nearby, a few chickens remain perched together upon a low wooden beam. Their feathers puff slightly against the cool air. Even the animals understand the peaceful rhythm of these nighttime hours. Across the fields, the barley continues its quiet dance beneath the breeze. The moonlight turns every stalk into pale silver. From a distance, the fields resemble gentle waves rolling across the earth. There are no footsteps now. No wooden carts. No voices calling across the farmland. The crops rest as surely as the people who tend them. Only the river remains awake. It never pauses. It never grows tired. The Nile carries cool water past sleeping villages just as faithfully in the middle of the night as it does beneath the brightest afternoon sun. Its steady movement has become part of every life here. Many people no longer notice the sound while they are awake. Yet if it were suddenly absent, they would feel its silence immediately. The river is always there. Always flowing. Always patient. Along one quiet canal, a watchman pauses beside a small footbridge. He lowers his lamp for a moment, listening. Somewhere among the reeds, frogs continue their peaceful chorus. Tiny insects skim across the surface of the water. A fish briefly rises before disappearing again beneath the dark current. Nothing seems out of place. Satisfied, the watchman continues his slow walk. He has followed this same path for many years. He knows every bend in the canal. Every tree. Every storage building. Every stone beside the road. Familiar places become companions over time. Farther downstream, a group of river boats rests securely along the shore. Their ropes creak softly whenever the breeze shifts direction. The sails have been lowered and carefully folded. Wooden oars lie neatly inside each vessel, waiting for another day. The captains and crew sleep nearby beneath simple shelters. Tomorrow they will continue carrying grain, pottery, papyrus, and linen between distant communities. Tonight their journey has paused. Even travelers need rest. One elderly sailor wakes briefly. He steps outside and looks toward the river. The moon reflects across the calm water. He smiles quietly. For most of his life, he has measured time not by seasons alone but by journeys upon the Nile. He has watched children become skilled sailors. He has welcomed new crew members. He has said farewell to old friends who spent their final years beside this faithful river. The Nile has carried all of those memories gently forward. After a few peaceful moments, he returns to sleep. In another part of the village, the home of a scribe remains unusually quiet. Rolled sheets of papyrus are stacked carefully inside wooden boxes. Brushes rest beside small dishes of black and red ink. Everything has been cleaned before bedtime. The young apprentice who spent the day practicing careful symbols now sleeps deeply upon a woven mat. Tomorrow he will continue learning. There is comfort in knowing exactly what the morning will bring. The lessons may be difficult. The work may require patience. But the path ahead is clear. Across the lane, inside the home of a potter, rows of finished jars stand against the wall. Moonlight enters through the doorway and touches their smooth surfaces. Each vessel seems slightly different from the next. One is taller. Another wider. Some were shaped for storing grain. Others will carry fresh water from the river. One small jar has been made especially for fragrant oils. The potter knows each piece almost as though it were an old friend. Tomorrow several of them will leave his workshop forever, finding new homes in nearby villages. That thought brings him quiet satisfaction. Objects made with care continue serving others long after they leave the hands that created them. Beyond the village, where the fertile valley slowly gives way to open desert, the night feels vast. The sand has cooled completely. A caravan traveling between distant settlements has stopped for the night. Their camels kneel quietly upon the ground. Bundles of goods remain tied securely beside them. A small fire burns low. Its light reaches only a few steps before the darkness returns. The travelers speak softly before sleep. They discuss tomorrow's route. They wonder whether the wind will remain gentle. One man points toward the familiar stars used to guide their journeys. The sky itself has become their oldest map. Eventually the conversation fades. One by one, they settle beneath wool blankets. The desert becomes silent once more. Back beside the Nile, the first hint of change begins long before sunrise. it is almost impossible to notice. The eastern horizon remains dark. The stars still shine brightly. Yet somewhere among the birds resting in the reeds, one stirs. A fisherman sleeping near his boat opens his eyes for only a moment. Years of early mornings have taught his body when dawn is approaching, even before the light appears. He listens. The village remains asleep. It is still too early. He closes his eyes again. Nearby, inside the baker's home, glowing embers remain hidden beneath a blanket of ash. The oven has not completely cooled. Soon those embers will be gently awakened. Fresh reeds and dry wood will be added. Flames will rise. Dough prepared the evening before will become warm bread. The familiar scent will once again drip through the village before sunrise, quietly inviting another day to begin. Inside another home, a farmer shifts slightly in his sleep. His hands rest peacefully after yesterday's labor. The rough skin across his palms tells the story of many harvests. Tiny scars catch the faint moonlight entering through the doorway. Those hands have planted seeds, repaired canals, lifted heavy baskets, mended fences, comforted children, and shared countless meals with family. Tomorrow they will do many of those same things again. There is nothing dull about repetition here. Each familiar task quietly protects the lives of those around him. Every loaf of bread begins with someone planting grain. Every woven basket begins with someone gathering reeds. Every linen garment begins with someone tending flax. Every comfortable home begins with someone shaping mud into bricks beneath the hot Egyptian sun. The work of one person gently supports the work of another, like the many small channels that branch from the Nile before returning once more to the great river itself. As the final hours of night slowly pass, the silence deepens one last time. The stars remain overhead. The breeze continues its slow journey across the fields. The river flows with patient certainty beside sleeping villages that have trusted its waters for countless generations. Soon, very soon, the first bird will sing. The first baker will rise. The first lamp will be lit. The first footsteps will press once more into the dusty roads leading toward the fields. But for now, Egypt rests completely. The fields breathe beneath the moon. The workshops dream in silence. The boats rock gently along the shore. And the timeless waters of the Nile continue their endless journey through the heart of a civilization built not only by kings and monuments, but by countless ordinary people whose quiet work begins again with every peaceful dawn. Ending the history now, the night has grown very still. The last lamp has faded behind a mud-brick doorway, leaving only the quiet glow of the stars above the Nile. The wind moves softly through the reeds, carrying the cool scent of fresh water across fields that have finally fallen silent. The day's footsteps are gone. The wooden hoes rest against simple walls. Fishing nets hang quietly from wooden pegs. Pottery cools inside peaceful workshops. Grinding stones wait patiently for another sunrise. Even the donkeys, the oxen, and the village dogs have settled into deep rest beneath the gentle darkness. The river alone continues its endless journey. It asks for nothing. It hurries for no one. It simply flows, just as it has for thousands upon thousands of years, carrying moonlight upon its surface and reflecting the same stars that watched over ancient farmers, fishermen, builders, scribes, bakers, merchants, and children so long ago. Their names have mostly disappeared. The wind no longer carries their voices. The footprints they left in the dust have long since been softened by time. Yet their lives remain quietly woven into the story of Egypt. Every loaf of bread they baked. Every field they watered. Every basket they wove. Every fishing net they repaired. Every mud brick they shaped beneath the warm sun. Every child they patiently taught. Every neighbor they quietly helped. These ordinary moments became something lasting. Not because they were grand, but because they were repeated with care, day after day, season after season, generation after generation. History often remembers rulers. Stone remembers monuments. But the land remembers hands. It remembers the gentle rhythm of thousands of ordinary people rising before dawn while the stars still shone above the Nile. It remembers sandals pressing into cool morning earth. It remembers smoke curling upward from the first ovens of the day. It remembers quiet voices greeting neighbors before work began. It remembers tired shoulders returning home beneath an evening sky painted in gold. And perhaps, if we listen closely enough in our imagination, we can almost hear those gentle sounds again. The soft splash of an oar. The whisper of barley moving in the breeze. The steady scrape of a grinding stone. The crackle of baking bread. The distant call of birds lifting from the reeds at sunrise. The quiet laughter of children playing beside the river. The peaceful silence that always returned when night settled over the valley once more. As the stars continue their slow journey across the sky, the Nile keeps flowing through the darkness. Its waters pass sleeping villages. They slip quietly beneath clusters of palm trees. They wind through fields resting beneath the moonlight. They move onward without hurry, carrying with them the calm rhythm that shaped countless ordinary lives. Now, imagine the village resting once more. The cooking fires have become glowing embers. The woven mats are filled with sleeping families. A gentle breeze enters through open doorways, cooling the rooms after another warm day. Outside, the fields wait patiently for morning. The boats rest lightly against the shore. The workshops stand peacefully in the moonlight. Nothing asks to be finished tonight. Nothing asks to be hurried. Everything can wait until dawn. And so, we leave ancient Egypt exactly as we found it. Not in the noise of kings or the echo of great monuments, but in the quiet comfort of everyday life. In the steady hands of ordinary workers. In the warmth of simple homes. In the peaceful rhythm of the river that never stopped flowing. May that gentle river carry away the weight of the day. May the cool desert breeze grow softer with every breath. May the distant stars shine quietly overhead, just as they have through every age. And as the Nile continues its endless journey into the darkness, may your thoughts become lighter, your eyes heavier, and your rest as calm and timeless as an ancient Egyptian night beside the water, where the only sound left is the slow, peaceful song of the river flowing gently beneath the stars.